Good evening, everyone. Okay, so do you see my screen? Okay, so yesterday we were discussing about reusable actions, how we'll be using in our real time, and what are the different types of reusable actions available. Any questions, anybody? Okay, so that is nothing but like reusable actions. Then we go for like another important topic, that is nothing but like parameterization. So in our manual testing front, we'll come up with like retesting. So what do you mean by retesting? Same test case, multiple sets of data you will be passing. So that is nothing but like retesting. Exactly whatever the automation you are coming up with, those automated scripts needs to be executed against multiple environments and multiple releases, right? So test script test automated test suite is one you'll be executing against multiple environments and releases. So that is nothing but like parameterization. Okay, so in manual test front you will call it like retesting, but in automation front you will call it like parameterization. So this is very powerful concept you will come up with in QTP. So that is nothing parameterization. Also you can consider like data driven testing. Data driven testing. Okay, so this is a little bit brief about like parameterization. So how many ways you will make parameterization is nothing but like there are different ways. So those are nothing but like through data table, through environment variable. uh, Another way is like random number generator, and flat files. And another way is like these days even you can pass your test data through your QC. In quality center itself you'll be able to pass your test data. So BPT framework, if you are aware of, means through BPT framework you don't want to use any external XLS files or text files or something like that. So over quality center itself you can pass your test data. Okay, that is what we'll be showing you at some point of time. So these are the different ways you can make parameterization in your QTP. We go one by one. So yesterday we were come up with like reusable actions, right? So how many times you execute, every time it will be taking same parameters, right? But your requirement is these test script needs to be executed in multiple environments or multiple releases. So at the time the username and password make it very right. So how you will pass your test data at that point of time? So one easy way in QTP is like through data table you can pass your test data. Okay, in QTP whenever you go for test script, automatically you will come up with integrated Excel kind of feature, integrated Excel kind of feature. So that is nothing but like your data table. Okay, so any of the programming language you go for, there are two types of data types you'll come up with: global and local, right? Global means across that program anywhere you can use. So those are nothing but like global variables, but within a specific function you may get a chance to use some variables. So those variables you will consider it as like local variables. Exactly, if you go for like Excel sheet, Excel workbook, you will be having three sheets: sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. Right? So exactly, if you go for QTP data table like that, by default you will get up with two sheets: global sheet and local sheet. So global sheet is nothing but like across that script you may get a chance to use, but this local sheet is nothing but like whatever the action name you are giving, whatever the action name you are giving, that action name itself, it will take the name for that local sheet. That means some variables you may get a chance to use within that action only. So those type of parameters you will use in your local sheet. Okay, so as of now, if you remember, these are the details, that is more than enough. So whenever the situation comes up, I mean to say like utility objects, one concept you will come up with. So during utility object, data table is one concept you will come up with. There I will be explaining you in detail. As of now, you remember this is the scope. Okay. Okay, so if you take like Gmail login, what are the parameters you can pass? Any inputs? Only username and password. URL also, right? Okay, so you are executing in multiple environments. So at that time, URL also will get vary. So URL also needs to be passed, right? Maybe parameterized. So okay, so like this, once you pass your data in your in your data table, in order to read data from your data table, so what is the command you will use is like you have to read data from your data table, right, during runtime. So data table dot value. So what is the parameter and what is the sheet? Remember, if it is global sheet, you don't want to pass in double quotes. If it is local sheet, you should pass it in double quotes. Okay, so global sheet are dt, global also you can give, but okay, we'll see what will happen. URL, password, username. Okay, okay, so now how many times it will execute? Remember one thing, so how many rows of data you are passing here, those many times your QTP executes automatically. You don't want to do anything. I'm giving just wait 20. The reason behind this is like it will execute repeatedly, but in middle for closing you don't have any of the script here. So that's why what I do is like manually I will close the Internet Explorer instance. Okay, so here remember how many rows of data you are passing in your QTP global sheet. Those many times your QTP, whatever the script you are having, it will iterate automatically. Okay, so So how many times it will execute now? 3 times. So that is the advantage of like your data table. So first row of data it's executing. So if you go for like view data table, see what it was enabled? First row, right? Okay, so first row it was enabled, you see. So whenever you have wait, you don't want to wait for that much time. What you can do is like you can pause. So pause was disabled, run. Okay, pause run FAQ. That statement it will get skip automatically. See, now it's second row got enabled. Second row enabled, right? Second row is enabled. Okay, that means okay. So then if I run pause and run, okay, so third row it was enabled, you see, automatically. Okay, so like that, how many rows of data you are passing, those many times your QTP iterates automatically. So that is the purpose of like your data table. So but here you remember one thing, I'm giving always same data, but that is not the situation. Tomorrow multiple sets of data you may pass whatever the test data you want to pass it out. Okay, that is the thing you have to remember. So this is nothing but like your QTP data table. But if you think about it like this is URL, username and password only you will get a chance to use in this action, right? So I really get a chance to go for using external to this action? We don't, right? Okay, so URL, username and password only within this action you will use. You'll never go for external of this action. So that is the reason. So passing out these parameters in global sheet, it's waste. Okay, so that is the reason what you can do is like you can, instead of passing these variables in local global sheet, if you pass it in local sheet it will be more meaningful. Right? So that's why. Okay, so now how many times to like you can anybody tell? But this is the one how you have to give sheet name, you have to change sheet name, you have to change. Okay, okay, so my question here is like now how many times to like you? Okay, how many times it like you? How many times? Any inputs? Okay, one time. Any other inputs? Why it is one time? You're passing. Yeah, that is correct. Okay, the thing is like uh, how many rows of data you are passing, those many times you should refer for global sheet, not for local sheet. Okay, in global sheet if you don't pass any of the data it will execute only once. Okay, by default. Okay, but at this situation you are passing your data in 3 rows in your local sheet. In your local sheet you are passing 3 rows. So if you go for like file settings, run, here you see like run on all rows. So these settings applicable for global sheet, not for local sheet. Okay, if you don't want to execute all those many times, like how many rows of data you are passing, so what you do, run one iteration only, or you are passing 1 to 100, let us suppose, but you don't want to execute 1 to 100, you have to execute 1 to 20. So you can go for like 1 to 20 here or 20 to 30, like that. You can track, you can manage with the help of these global settings. But these settings applicable for global table, global sheet, not for local sheet. Okay, but for local sheet also you may get a chance to execute those many times, right? So that is what I do is like during VB scripting I'll be explaining you like data table utility object. At the time I will explain you how you will handle data table local sheet operations. Okay, so this is nothing but like your data table. So mostly you are using reachable actions means, okay, so you will be passing your test data through your local sheet instead of passing like global sheet. But it doesn't mean like you don't want to pass in global sheet. If there is a requirement, let us suppose this is a registration model, so you will be entering all the details, click on submit button. As soon as you click on submit button, it will get generate employee ID. That one employee ID you may store it in global sheet, right? Employee ID you may get a chance to use in some other reusable actions in your main program. So at that time employee ID you may pass in global sheet. Okay, so like that, depends on requirement, you may pass it up how you feel comfortable. So this is nothing but like your data table, but in real time, do they really use? That is important, that is what you have to be aware of, right? But let us suppose in real time 1000 scripts you are using, in 1000 scripts you are inserted this usual action. So before executing your automation test suite, what you have to do, if you are implementing this is the approach means, you have to go open your 1000 scripts, you have to update, then you will initiate your automation execution. That means like how much time it will take. So this is the drawback of like your QTP data table. So that is the reason we don't implement our QTP build like data table process in our real time. The reason behind this is like, okay, you have to open your 1000 scripts and you have to update your test data with all these usable actions and test scripts means it's very hard, right? So that is the reason in real time we don't go for data table. But which approach we go for? The third way I told, like flat files. What do you mean by flat file? Means your uh, Excel files or text files or INI files, XML files. So these files you will consider it like flat files. You can go for either XML file or text files or INI files or XLS files. You are using QTP means mostly people were approaching like your Excel. Okay, but I may not be explain you how to read data from your XLS file or flat files. Why means like that is what you should be aware of, means you should be aware of QTP, not QTP, VB scripting concepts you should be aware of. But right now you are not aware of like VB scripting, right? So that's why what I do is like flat files approach I'll be explaining you during your VB scripting. Okay, so flat files just now as of now you just ignore. So that is nothing but like flat files. Then another approach you have like environment variables. Okay, so before going environment variable, another simple thing I will show you like verify component. if I go and execute, is it really done? That is what. So okay, so I'm going and executing. Let us see what will happen. So that login action you are inserted here, right? So I'm trying to execute. See what is giving. This is the thing. Okay, so Gmail login sheet not found. Why? Remember here, as soon as you insert any specific action in your main test, the name of the reusable action is changing. So action from which script. Okay, but what you are given here? Gmail login. Only action name you are given. That is the reason if you want to insert your action in your main script and no issues you will come across, means what you have to do, you have to give complete name. Okay, you have to give complete name. So action from which script. Now it will execute properly. Okay, okay, now it's executing, right? So this is how you can go. So this is nothing but like your data table, but in real time we don't use this data table approach. And then we can go for like environment variables. What do you mean by environment variable? So in your operating system level, one environment if you take, across that environment you may use some variables. So that is nothing but like environment variable you will consider it as. So that is normal very basic concept in any of the programming languages somewhere. That means like across one environment you are using any of the variables, means those variables you will consider it as environment variables. Like data in our testing front, if we take development environment, across that environment you may use some variable, that is nothing but environment variable. Across testing environment you may use some environment variable, that is nothing but environment variable. So that is the kind of stuff you have to use, means where you have to do is like file settings, if you go for environment, here one tab you see, that is environment. So in our QTP, there are two types of environment variables you will come across. So that is nothing but like global, sorry, not global, built-in and user defined, system defined and user defined. Okay, system defined and user defined. So built-in means these variables you will get a chance to use only for specific purpose. System was defined these variables for specific purpose. So whatever the purpose they were defined, for that specific purpose only you will be using these variables. Okay, so that is nothing but like your built-in environment variables. So you have to use these environment variables in your test script, means environment dot value. Okay, so double quote. Remember one thing, this is case sensitive. Oh yes, so you have to observe, you have to see value means message that you can use in your QTP. So environment dot value. Oh yes, excuse me. Okay, so it's giving environment, that is the value, right? So version, if you go for, that means that is environment variable not available. So environment, if I go like OS version is available, right? Oh, spelling is wrong. Okay, so what is the version? So like this, let us suppose your automated test script needs to be executed in multiple environments. At that time, your results show like which environment those test scripts got executed. Your client want to get to know. So at that time, what you can do is like this is one you can go. So reporter dot report event. What it does is like reported a report event. Before that, during your replay, what QTP does? Which are the statements available in your QTP? Each and every statement it will log in your results window like whether that statement got pass or fail, right? So 10 statements you are given here means in your test script. So those 10 steps you will be able to see in your results window like pass or fail. Along with those logs, you have to provide few more in detail logs, whatever you feel comfortable. So those logs you have to give means how you will pass it up, right? Like this is the command you can use. So that is nothing but like reporter dot report event. So mic pass means it will be passed. So what is the step name? So OS version, okay, details. Okay, fourth parameter is optional. See how it will show you, just I will give you some idea. Mic fail, mic pass, mic one. Okay, so if I execute, how it will display, you see. Okay, if I go for like a results window, so where is results window? Okay, you see pass OS version, first statement is pass. That means like that is one is given. Okay, you see, right? So this is the purpose of like your statement like reporter dot report event. So this is nothing but like your built-in environment variable purpose. But yeah, no, it's not like that. What I'm saying, like I'm showing you like what exactly mic pass, mic fail, and how you can use Microsoft, not Microsoft reported at report event. But what I mean to say here is like each and every script, if you mention this is the one, so you get to know which operating system you are executing this script, right? Like this, if you mention each and every script, so if you are executing in XP, it will report you like XP execution environment is like here we can give execution environment. Okay, so which environment is executing? If you are executing in XP, it will give you like XP. If it's executing in Vista, it will give you like Vista 7, it will give you like 7. So that is the way it will give you. Each and every test script, first statement if you give, and remaining what exactly you're supposed to execute, those statements you will add. So as soon as developer or client see those reports, oh this is the script got executed, this is the environment. So like that he will get some idea, right? Below data table, yeah, none. Data table, sometimes it will appear, sometimes it won't appear, but always it will be there. It's just disabled. You want to see your data table means view data table, you can go for. It's not like yeah, in real time we don't use data table. Why means if you go for like using data table, 1,000 scripts you are using data table. So before going for putting night execution, you have to open your test script 1,000 and you have to execute means it will be harder, right? That is the reason. See, if you are maintaining like Excel, so before executing 1,000 scripts, you go Excel and you update and you simply start executing, go home. And that is very simple, right? But 1,000 scripts you have to work on and you have to update means it's very hard, right? And another thing is like automation. As a automation framework approach, you will develop your automation framework and send it to manual tester. Then manual testers will be using executing this automated framework. But automation testers they may not be aware of like how to open your test script and how to update test data, right? So that is also another reason why people follow like Excel sheets. Okay, so that's the reason we don't go for like using this data type. See, during runtime or even every time data table will be there always, but you want to view means view data table. If you don't want to view, you can disable. Even runtime also sometimes it will appear. If you don't, it doesn't appear means it doesn't mean data table is not there. Okay, it will be there. You want to view means you can go for data table. Yeah, it will be available action or test script, every action that is by default. With every test you will come up with like qtp data table. Right, it's your wish. Okay, but data table will be there by default with every test. Okay, it's your wish whether you want to use it or not. Okay, so this is data table, and the first way is like built-in built-in environment variable, and another way is you may come up with your own environment variables. So that is nothing but like user defined. So user defined means username, some value. Okay, okay, password. So what I'm doing is like username I'm deleting. I'm trying to add once again username. Something I'm doing. Okay, why? So the reason behind this is like if you go for built-in environment variables, username is there. Okay, so these variables you cannot use again for any other purpose. So these variables qtp already defined for specific purpose, so you cannot use same name for another purpose. Okay, that is the reason it won't allow you. Okay, but username and capital U and capital M. So VB script is case sensitive. So that's why you can give like username all small letters, but you cannot give. Okay, so that is the way. So if you want to use in your uh, message box, okay, so what is the username you have given is displaying, right? So that is how you can use your like user defined variables. So what are the variables you want, you can define and can use in your program. Clear, right? So that is how you can use your local variables, local environment variables. Even you want to export these variables. Even if you want to export, you can export. So whatever the name you feel comfortable, you can put. Okay. So even you want to import already existing XML file, you can import external. See, like this. Even these are the features also available, but in real time you will get a chance to use your data table. But how you use is like, this is one way. Another way, you can directly use environment variable. So that is what we'll be implementing our framework. So at that time we'll get clear picture about like how you will use environment variable. But in real time, we really get a chance to go and use our environment variables at some point of time, but not always. Okay. So this is nothing but like your environment variables, but the basic idea is like there are two ways: built-in environment variables and user defined. So user defined, you can import or export even in the form of like XML files. This is the stuff you have to do. Okay. So another thing is like you are having 30 sets of data, let us assume. So 10 scripts needs to be executed, or 200 test scripts you are having. Those 200 test scripts needs to be executed against 13 different sets of data. Okay. So one test data is taking like, for one test set, all 2200 scripts you have to execute means, let us suppose is taking 3 hours. That means night means how many hours you will come across? Only 8 hours. But 30 sets of data you have to execute means 30 into 3, 90 hours. It's really hard, right? So if that is the situation, what you do that? So that means like you don't have enough time at this point of time. So you may get this kind of situation at some point of time. So at that point of time, what you can do is like, instead of executing 30 different sets of data, you will pick up one test data dynamically and execute, right? So that is nothing but like your uh, another way of executing is like through random number generator. X equal to random number. So 1 comma 30. In between 1 and 30, it will take one row. Oh, okay. What is giving? See, in between 1 and 30 is taking one number. So second row it will enable and get executed. So that is how you can go. Data table dot set current row to. So how you will enable second row? That one I will tell you like during your utility function like data table. Okay. So that is how, if I execute once again, what is the number it will give you? See. Okay. So that is how it will go and execute. Okay. So that row of data it will take and execute. So like, instead of executing every time like first row, what you are doing, one test set you are picking up randomly from your available 30 rows of data, and for that row you will be executing. So that is nothing but like your random number generator. Okay, this is another way of using your data driven testing. But in real time, we never go for like a random number, but at very rare situations you may go for, this is nothing but like your random number data table. But mostly we go for flat files approach. But that flat files, and these days people are implementing using like You during manual testing, while explaining quality center at the time, I could have told you, right, how you can pass your how you'll make a template like parameterization, like you'll add parameters and data also you'll be passing, right, like default data, something like that. If you may not remember, but what I do is like during framework implementation I will again explain you like how you'll pass data in your QC itself. Okay, so this is nothing but like your data driven testing. But date in our automation front, different types of frameworks will come up with. Those are nothing but like uh, modular driven framework, data driven framework, hybrid framework, keyword driven framework, like that. So hybrid data driven framework is one framework, familiar one, and that is the one you may be implementing always. So that means like data driven framework means one test suite, multiple sets of data you are passing to that test suite. That is nothing but data driven testing. So it's a very important. So but once we finished up with our QTP and VB scripting, we'll start up with the framework for specific application, right? So at that time I'll be showing you like how you will read data from your XMS file. Okay, that means like your flat files. This is nothing but like your parameterization. Any questions? No questions? Okay. So no questions means thanks for your time. Tomorrow same time we'll meet up again. Okay? Fine? Okay, that's me. Thanks for your time. See you. Fine. Bye. Have a good night.